The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Take your favorite Texas cliche and insert it here. Today we visit a modern American racetrack that was built to be bigger, better, and more hospitable to fans who love road racing. The Circuit of the Americas is home to the U.S. Grand Prix and Formula One, endurance races with both IMSA and the WEC, as well as many other series and club-level races too. The creators of this track aimed high and can sit back at the end of the day claiming they've met their goals and then some. But any drivers with lofty aspirations of wins today will have their work cut out for them at this technical and demanding track. We'll see who achieves greatness as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GTLM classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTD class is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, the Circuit of the Americas was an ambitious project to say the least, but at least it has a nice, easy nickname for us, COTA. Why don't you tell us about the track?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, Joe, about Texas stereotypes. One thing I always remember about Texas is those big Texas cinnamon rolls that you find in vending machines across the United States, normally at rest stops. And those make me very hungry indeed. And of course, Formula One fans will also know F1 goes to Hungary, which is a twisty circuit. Well, this is a very twisty circuit too. Have a look at your track guide here. It starts with a lot of twists and turns on this 3.427 mile circuit. That's 5.515 kilometers. 20 turns in total. But as those who have driven through Texas would know, another Texan stereotype here, the roads, the speed limits are quite high on them. There's a lot of area to get up to top speed in whatever car you're driving. That is definitely going to be the case for these GT and prototype cars there, coming out of turn 11 on down that long back straight to turn 12 you just saw on screen right there. and they're going to get to race for 60 minutes here tonight. It's going to be about 30 to 35 laps long, all these cars turning around 2-minute laps. So sit back for 2 minutes and get ready to ride along with Kevin Brown in our GSRC BMW with our lap guide.
All right, Kevin Brown is behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Turn 1 is known for this incredible uphill braking zone. Really, you can't see that sharp little apex curve until you've already started turning in, so picking all your markers is critical. Then we head back downhill into 2, which will be flat out. This leads us into the start of the S's. This series of corners makes all other road course S sections look like a quick trip down the block. Back and forth, 7 separate corners, and really you could claim 8 since this one has 2 apexes. In the end, it all comes back uphill to turn 9, where you want to hug the right as much as you can, and once you've got the angle, put your foot down and power over the top. 10's a quick left flick that you've got to hit just right, or else you're flying wide or losing time. Plus, the hairpin of 11 is a good place to sneak a pass in. But if it was me, I'd be more concerned about getting a nice wide entry and getting on the gas for the backstretch. This straightaway is going to give you a long time to think about what you've just done. If you nailed it, you can smile and take a breather. If you botched it, keep an eye on the mirror and decide if it's worth defending, because that trailing car is going to be all over you like Kevin on a piece of Gators memorabilia. 12 is really your best place to get by somebody. Sharp corner and a heavy braking zone at the end of a long stretch. Doesn't get much more tilt design than that. From here, it's all fiddly hairpins and technical corners. Cars are going to be line astern unless someone makes a mistake, which is actually terribly easy. Going wide or the rear coming around from entering too hot are both common sights. And then here with 16, 17, and 18, it just never feels like you hit the corner in the best way. They've marked it as 3 separate ones, but it's just a big, long arc. Regardless, you gotta get the car to the right because 19 drops off something fierce, and even drivers at the highest skill level tend to push wide. From there, the final corner is another slow one that requires the slow in, fast out mantra. If you can outdrag your competitor, it sets you up well for a pass into 1. But that's how you complete a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Not an exaggeration to say that this is a demanding track, difficult one to be fast on. But one of our team members that, of course, never has any difficulty in making it clear how the championship situation looks is Bill Subzon. Let's go to him to see what the points are.
I'm going to do my best, and this is a darn exciting season. I know we're early on, only 4 races in, but man, the points are exciting. Now, keep in mind that drop races haven't been accounted for yet. A little early for that. They allow you to take off too. Now, let's start with the prototypes. Despite only managing a 6th at Road America, Autobahn Motorsports West John Ulmer moves up a spot to the lead. Mark Schindel has been steady and fast enough to slip the TMC Carbon driver into 2nd. Now, fuel issues at Road America earned Talon Motorsports' Robert Tinsey a 13th place finish. Add in a penalty, and that's going to drop him way down in the standings. He's looking forward to drop races wiping out that Wisconsin result. How about Cy Andra? He was a no-show for Daytona, then a 7th at Mossport, a 3rd at Sebring, and finally a win last time. He's got it figured out. SRN Motorsports' Daniel Peralti's best result was last time when he got a 2nd. Let's go ahead and look at the GTLM classes now. He won earlier at Mossport. He has a 3rd last time, and that was enough to let Autobahn West Billy Smith hang on to the lead. Jeffrey Ooms has back-to-back wins when his no-show at Mossport is dropped. That OAD racing driver will be a serious threat for the crown. Autobahn's Eats Lise Peterson's best result with 4th place finish in the Great White North. He sits in 3rd. Now P1 race SimRacing's John Pac-Man Paquin has stepped away from the series. Look for him to fall down the standings as we move forward. Road America gave TMC Racing's Dave Hill his best result of the season, and that was a 4th. Let's go to the GTD class, where Rainier Racing Team's Bradley Haley has a pair of wins, but a 9th last time gave his competition some hope. Scott McGarvey continues to improve. Get this, the SRN Motorsports driver has posted 1st to 12th, then a 4th, then a 4th, and finally a 2nd. That's the way you want to do it. Dennis Severtic is coming off a win last round. A 19th place finish in the season opener is the only really poor result for Kevin Santana. He's another driver looking forward to drop races being accounted for. Finally, how about fan favorite Sheldon Rosenbaum? Had a win in Canada and a 5th last time. Finds that Autobahn East driver back on the Oliver Lane, now alone in 5th. Finally, to the team championship, where I could talk for an hour, so we'll just put it up there and just look at they continue to shuffle. Green arrows on top, red arrows on the bottom, everybody shuffling around. The run name that you do not see is Robert Tinsey. Where is his team? Right now it's SRN Motorsports out in front, but only by a couple points over the longtime team here at the Autobahn Series, and that is Autobahn Motorsports West, and he's the AOD Racing down there. Rainier Racing team in 4th. There you have it, Joe. Early on, but very exciting.
Yeah, things have been unpredictable this whole season with a lot of new faces, and we've certainly enjoyed the racing as well. Now, for our viewers who have never watched an Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge race, why don't we give you a quick run through the race details. Of course, we are on round 5, as we said, and they do have 2 drop weeks that they're allowed to drop their worst result in the points at the end of the season. This is a 60-minute race. They do have longer ones, 90 minutes a few times throughout the season, so this is essentially a sprint race for them. And because of that, you can expect 1 pit stop today. They also have a free repair, which basically, if you've never played iRacing, means that they have a spare car. If their current car is too damaged, they can come in and take a fresh car. Now, Sam, there is a lot of, well, let's say that there's a lot of good places to pass here, but I have to say it seems like it's going to be a little bit difficult to stay in the wake of some of these more higher downforce cars, I have to imagine.
Yeah, it is, Joe, especially during the first sector, as you just see Alex Simonik coming out of that, where you are just consistently left, right. So really, your best overtaking opportunities are going to be up the hill then to turn 1, although that creates drama in itself, in that the turn goes from being very wide open to very narrow very quickly there at the apex at the top of the hill. Turn 11, that's the turn you see these cars going through right now, multi-class traffic during the last minute qualifying session we got going on, last chance qualifying session rather. Maybe you could get away with a pass there, but really your best opportunity is going to be down the end of Long Back Straight here into turn number 12. And then of course in the final sector there's a couple overtaking opportunities, but you've got to be careful with those, as Max Verstappen learned the hard way in the Formula 1 race not too long ago, in that there's a lot of runoff areas here. And the stewards could definitely make some calls after the race. But also, let's not forget, iRacing has a built-in incident point limit. Well, it does in official series races. The league organisers give an incident point limit for this series, which, even though it sounds like a lot, they can get away with 24 incident points. Some drivers have been complaining about that, Joe.
They have indeed. It's very easy to rack them up around here with all the paved runoff on this track, which it's kind of become a little bit notorious for, as you pointed out with what we saw with Max Verstappen. Speaking of the stewards, though, as we watch Paul Darling get his qualifying lap wrong, we should mention that Robert Tinsey is not here today, and actually we witnessed a bit of an incident that he got a 15-point penalty that Bill mentioned for at the last round. Now, it wasn't an intentional move. We know that there was a bit of wonder about that, and we wanted to believe that it wasn't. And Robert came on the forums afterwards and explained his situation. He said it was definitely not an intentional chop. He just calculated it wrong and wasn't happy with the driver, so he made an angry move, and, well, that went awry. That is going to make things very interesting today, because that is another drop week that's going to be a 0 for him, Bill.
Yeah, I talked about the drop weeks. It was not a great result last round, and we say, well, we'll get rid of that one. He's going to have a no-show, and then the bad result at Road America, he's out of them. That means anything that happens on the track is going to count. Or if his sister's getting married, I don't know why she will get married on a Monday night, but if there was some reason that he'd have to miss a race, that's going to definitely cost him. You know, Sam was talking about incident points here. Yeah, I can understand that, because this is the kind of track, at least for me, where you can pick up incidents and it doesn't cost you any time. So it's not like unlike a track where you pick them up and, oh, I've gone wide and it's going to slow me down. Here you can pick them up and it's no big deal. That's why I think the driver's kind of worried about it sneaking up on him.
And as we watch this last of the last chance qualifying, I do like to note that Bradley Haley is looking like he's going to take the pole in the GTD class, which is significant because even though he's leading the points over there in the GTD class, he had a bad finish last round. Really his first genuinely bad finish, we should say, because it was 2 wins in a second. So if he could get it back on track, this could further solidify himself.
Haley's been really good. Dennis Savretic also sitting in second. But Joe, let's go ahead and look at the prototypes for a minute. They're not out there, but let's talk about a new name that caught us by surprise. We don't know much about him. Mike Young is qualifying faster than John Ulmer, sitting second right now.
Indeed, Ulmer is actually down in third because Andra has the pole for the moment. Quite a big field over in the prototypes. 14 of them have shown up today, much to the misery of some of the other classes. Going to be difficult in certain sections for them to try and overtake. As we see Darling this time gets his lap in. Right now he's sitting 6th in his class. And if you're not sure what the last chance qualifying is that we keep mentioning as we watch Jimbo Pfeiffer as well work that in his Ferrari GTLM class, though, for him. The last chance qualifying is basically a mixed class qualifying because all the other classes get themselves their own individual qualifying for 15 minutes during the warm-up. And if you're not able to make that allotted 15 minutes, well, you get to do the mixed class qualifying here in the final 15 minutes to try and get something in. A little bit more difficult, and you can't take part unless you didn't do a single lap over in your allotted times qualifying. 12 seconds left to go, which means we're getting pretty close for this being done and dusted. As we watch Jeff Hooper as well in the GTDs come through one of the more technical and twisty final parts through that stadium section. Now sort of notorious here at Circuit of the Americas. And there's the checkered flag. Go ahead.
Yeah, these drivers will have time to complete their laps. You see 2 minutes 30 there now until the session officially closes out there in the top left corner of your screen, counting that time down. And it does sound like a lot of hooper there, Joe. But I would definitely say that the choice of car is making an effect today over in the GTD side, because the top 4 in GTD qualifying are Mercedes, then they have 3 Audis right behind them, and then the Ferraris, such as Jeff Hooper, are actually quite mired back there in the qualifying order in the GTD class. Let's recall that there are GTD Ferraris out there, and also Ferraris and GTLM.
Indeed, that's been one of the stories of this season. The GTD Ferraris have not been very fast, much to the dismay of the drivers driving them. Now, let's go through our starting order. Cy Andra will be on the pole with Mike Young on the outside of row 1. John Ulmer will start 3rd, and then row 2 ends with Alex Ellis. Another Alex Simonik is behind him in 5th, with Daniel Gralti starting in 6th. Mark Schindel is in 7th, and Mark Wilson is in 8th. Then row 5, you have Carter Kundinger starting in 9th, with Armando Edwards rounding out that 5th row in the top 10. Lionel Duprat will start in 11th, Scott Corbin in 12th, and David Sockrider in 13th. And then the last of our prototypes will be Mark Kudrowski in 14th, Bill.
14 drivers in the prototypes, 14 drivers in this GTLM class as well, led by Jason Girard. Then a couple of Ferraris behind him of Jeffrey Ooms and Billy Smith, Stephen McGarvey and Patrick Fleming after that in those would be the Fords. Then Paul Darling is back. Watch for him to improve. He's never a good qualifier. He's sitting in 20th. That would be 6th in class. Leif Peterson behind him. Dave Hill, Carlos Villa in 23rd overall. Ryan Huff, Corey Roon, Jimbo Pfeiffer, John King, and Dale Green round out the class. Sam?
Bradley Haley trying to rebound from his Road America disappointment by taking pole in GTD ahead of Road America's winner, Dennis Safratek. Kevin Santana and Scott McGarvey will start behind him also in Mercedes. Then the three Audis of Brian Burnett, Brandon Gracia and Dino Topic all starting together. Sheldon Rosenbaum and Ross Booth will be 8th and 9th in class, I believe, and Paul Lindsay will round out the top 10 in GTD in the first Ferrari GT3 that we see back there. Sheldon Woloshin and Sean Rees in 2 Mercedes, being followed by Christopher Sherburn, Matt Owens, Jeff Hooper and Robert Sklenka. So 2 Ferraris will be rounding out the cars that qualified there, and David Tedder will also be starting behind them in the Ferrari. The 2 names you see there of Marty Jeffries and Joseph Crawford are not in the session, so it looks like we have a 45 car field.
And the roof pace car is pulled away on the backstretch. Just half a pace lap we have here today at Circuit of the Americas before they go racing for 60 minutes here in round 5 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Real quick, our usual question, Bill, who's your picks?
Don't know who he is, don't know how old he is, don't know what he does, don't know if he's married or single. I like Mike Young for the win here because I know nothing about him. We go all the way down to the GTLMs. I gotta go with the defending champion, Stephen McGarvey. Sam?
Well, Bradley Haley took pole over Dennis Safratek, but only by 0.08 of a second. And I've got to say, Safratek with a win early on in the season, of which I believe he is a rookie in this series, shows very good promise, very good signs of momentum, and I wonder if he's going to be able to build on that today and beat Bradley Haley across the line. It'll be fun to see if he's able to do it. I say he can.
We'll keep an eye on that story throughout the race. They come out of the triple apexer. Now up to the penultimate left-hander, and the roof pace car will peel off. You know, that's one thing about this place, Sam. They have all these nicknames and colloquialisms in Texas, and they couldn't lend any of them to all these corners. Just all a bunch of numbers.
Well, let's call this one the last turn. They're coming through it now, Joe, and we're about to go racing into the first turn.
All right, let's see what Andra can do from the pole. He's won his first race already in only his 3rd try. Can he make it 2 in a row? He's waiting patiently. Now he accelerates away. A big checkup behind him. And look at the bad effect that has on the right row. This is going to allow John Oler to get a nose in up into 2nd potentially. He's taking a look. He didn't have the greatest of qualifying as they all break for that big crest into turn 1. And siphoned together, they're through clean. Let's go to the GTLMs.
Gerard brought him up slowly, then he got on the gun, and he's going to get there. But look at Ohms. He's being challenged right now by Billy Smith. Let's stay on this as they go into the first corner, and I think Smith is going to get it from the preferred position. Ohms back into 3rd position. McGarvey and Fleming. Sam?
Haley wants to prove that Road America was a one-off, and he's done the right thing here. He's got a good jump over Safratek. They're racing side by side for 3rd behind. Kevin Santana wins that battle ahead of Brian Burnett and Scott McGarvey.
Miraculously good start through turn 1, which is known for causing some tangles with the way it comes together. The prototypes are already hitting the backstretch, and Simonic makes a great move around the outside of Alex Ellis to get himself into 4th. That could go back now as they race down towards turn 12. The hairpin coming up fast. The slipstream used by Ellis to great effect gets to the inside and then some. He's well ahead of him by the time they come to the apex, and already he's under threat from Gralty.
What a great battle. Ellis, Gralty, Simonic not done as he hangs in there. I think Simonic's going to be able to hold off for 4th. Ellis back to 5th. Gralty watching the show.
Oh, almost got into him. Gralty had to take evasive action to not get into the back of Ellis. 5 cars very close together, led by Simonic. Ellis behind, Gralty behind him, then Schindel, and then Wilson. They come around to complete the first lap, and up at the front with a nice gap, in fact a 1.5 second gap, is Andra.
And the GTLM's back in 2nd position. Smith is being pestered by Ohms. Ohms wants that spot back that he lost on the start. But look at Stephen McGarvey, my pick for the win. Racing right there with him and not far behind, Patrick Fleming.
Man, already into the pits at the end of lap 1, Carter Cundin. I can't imagine this is scheduled. This is like Christmas music playing in November. Far too early for a scheduled stop here.
He got Kundinger got into it with, on I think, maybe corner number 1 with David Stockrider. I think that's where he picked up damage.
On screen, we're watching that battle for second in the GTLMs. Billy Smith had to go defensive on Jeffrey Ooms. Ooms is looking towards a championship, and he doesn't want to tangle here with Billy Smith as they come up to the S's. He runs out of track, almost goes wide, and they have to slot back to single file. All this is doing, though, is just basically putting P1 into Jason Gerard's lap.
See you later, Jason Gerard, as he's up by over 2 seconds.
After 1.5 laps, impressive stuff. He's trying to get this championship back on track himself.
We look at him. Actually, the cork in the bottle, I can't believe I'm saying it might be Billy Smith. They are lined up behind him. It goes back for a while.
He stretched away a little bit down into turn 11. A little bit of a battle behind them between McGarvey and Fleming as they come to the backstretch. Known for these slipstream battles that start to erupt. And McGarvey actually got a great exit to put himself at less of a threat from Fleming. Instead, he's looking ahead to Jeffrey Ooms. He's going to run out of track, though, by the time they hit the braking for 12.
A little more competition going on in the GT elements than there are in the prototypes that are nicely spaced out. 5 or 6 car lengths between everybody.
So as we watch this fight, let's duck back to the GTDs while we have the chance and see how the top of that field is doing. Haley's only got about a second over Servetic. Remember, Servetic got his first win last round as well here in these GTDs.
Yeah, the only move inside the top 6 early on here has been Brian Burnett, who started in 5th place, moved up to P4 early, and that shuffled Scott McGarvey back to round out the top 5 there. One thing I noticed on the opening lap, and also seeing a bit of it on lap 2 here, Joe, even though we've had a clean start to this race, a lot of the drivers already abusing the track limits, but I wonder if they even have a choice on these cold tyres.
Yeah, it could be very difficult at this point. We saw Dino Topic coming through the stadium section being one of those. And as we mentioned, he's under threat right now from Sheldon Rosenbaum. We'll see if this starts to erupt. But Topic used to be running the Ferrari. He switched over to the Audi because he was so dissatisfied and took the points hit that it comes with changing cars.
Sam talking about...
and the car spinning in front of him is Brandon Gracia. Sorry to cut you off there, Bill.
No, that's all right. Rossi does a good job of staying out of everybody's way.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's going to lose a lot of time and positions. He had been running 6th in class and then just lost it on his own, it would appear.
We had an incident with Alex Ellis. Big incident. We need to go to replay of him and Simonic into turn 12. We're going to go on board Ellis, and we are going to get a face full of gearbox and Simonic's spoiler. Wow.
Ouch. Ouch.
Hard hit. And I believe Ellis did apologize for that, but he is the one that came off the worst. He's missing his nose, and he's already coming in for a spare car, it looks like.
Sam was talking about traction out there. We didn't mention the weather. It's morning skies here, but look how overcast it is. 78 degrees, air temperature 78 on the track.
That is not a Texas stereotype.
Nope.
Corbin was in a battle with Kudrowski, and Kudrowski came out on top, down in the 10th position. As they go through turn 1. Tries for a little bit of a switchback, doesn't work out for Corbin, unfortunately. So he's going to have to stay in 11th just for now. Otherwise, hasn't been too eventful up in these prototypes in the early stages.
Yeah, now, for our new viewers...
Sorry, there was a big bobble from Kudrowski through the S's. Go ahead, Sam.
For our new viewers and Alex Ellis fans, let's remember that they do get a free repair in the series. The problem Ellis is really going to run into here is now he's going to be stuck in all this GT traffic, and he's still going to have to make his scheduled stop late in the race.
We look at this. This is Jeffrey Ooms dive into the inside of 1. He finally gets around Billy Smith. Watching that on replay.
As we come back live, if we stay on Smith here, he is struggling right now, actually. His car was all over the place through the S's, and you can see McGarvey and Kundinger, well, Kundinger's a different class there, are very close to him. Kundinger is just going to work his way through. Remember, he started from the pit lane. Now as he finally gets past, he's got a couple more to go. Weaves his way past Billy Smith. Smith gets himself a little bit of breathing space ahead of McGarvey down the backstretch. A critical time for it. This definitely releases Ooms. Let's see if he can gain time on Gerard, because all that fighting has opened it up to 4 seconds.
Yeah, again, Billy Smith, we talked about, he started to pull away, then Ooms was able to get that all back. Now he's around him. Remember, Ooms was the second fastest qualifier. He lost that spot on the start when Billy Smith snaked him.
I think there might be something wrong with Smith's setup, or maybe he took some damage from one of the pyramid curves at the apexes, because this car just does not look right.
I think Stephen McGarvey would agree with that now, as Smith is in jeopardy of falling one more spot back. McGarvey, defending champ, would like to get around him.
Coming onto the front stretch, one of the good places to try to set up a pass, and he's right within that draft. Let's see if McGarvey sends one up the inside as they hit the crest of turn 1. He closes in. He's a little bit far back, about 2 car lengths behind. And no, he's going to stay in line, but he gets right up under that rear spoiler.
That's Smith's Achilles heel. He does not like corner 1.
Maybe that's what we should name that corner.
Achilles?
It's a hill.
I do like that one. That's a good name for it. But as they weave their way through the S's, McGarvey starts to drop off a little bit. So things switching back in the favor of Smith this time. Only 10 minutes into this race, still quite a ways to go.
Yeah, 10 minutes in, but it is a bit of a sprint race for GT racing, only 1 hour long.
Now, quickly on fuel, if you were with us for Road America, the prototype struggled to do it on one stop. In fact, Tinsey couldn't. He ran out at the end. We don't think that COTA is going to be quite a thirsty as track as Road America is. We expect the prototypes to have a little larger window.
Watching this battle between Leif Peterson and Dave Hill and the GTLMs. Whoa! Narrow miss there for Ryan Huff. Coming up the outside, did not expect them to slow as much as they did. That's going to send him backwards. But Peterson still looking ahead, trying to hassle Dave Hill out of that position.
Of course, Dave Hill knows that car all too well. Last season, the Ferrari was a popular car in this class, but Hill was one of those who was able to consistently get solid finishes in that Ford GT.
This is actually the first season they've had the Ferraris, as they've switched away from the Aston Martins and the Corvettes. So this is a bit of new territory for a number of these drivers. The dynamic between the two makes has been interesting.
And for whatever reason, COTA seems to be a little more equalizing for all the makes. Sam's got a little bit of a manufacturer battle going on down there, and so do I up here with the Fords and the Ferraris.
Sounds like we got a battle for 3rd and 4th in the GTEs as well.
Yeah, Kevin Santana's been a little bit off a pace in his Mercedes here, but Brian Burnett and Scott McGarvey haven't really made any passing manoeuvres. The same could be said for the cars running behind Dino Topic in 6th. We checked in on this earlier. Dino Topic, it seems, I guess maybe he's running low downforce because he's struggling through this first sector here, but then he's able to pull away from the cars behind him throughout the rest of the lap.
Yeah, definitely has a train behind him. That's Rosenbaum, Booth, and Lindsay trailing the Audi. All of them in Mercedes, I believe, as well. Could be just a difference in make, not necessarily setup. Oh, a little bit wide through that apex goes Topic. No opportunity for Rosenbaum there.
Yeah, no, I wonder if this is the same thing we're seeing up in the battle for 3rd in GTD, because right now Brian Burnett is very close to Kevin Santana for 3rd place as well, but then Santana gets such a great run going down the back straight and is able to pull away, and we'll see if Topic is able to do the same again, this time down the back straight, and sure enough, I just don't think Rosenbaum is within striking range.
Meanwhile, Bill, it seems like Billy Smith is going backwards in a hurry. Another pass was made.
Let's go to the prototypes, though. This is Ulmer. Okay, when we come back, we'll come back live. Ulmer has made a run on him. We'll watch this here as we're looking at McGarvey.
Looks like it made the move down into infamous turn 12.
Yeah, finally
Easy
got
doing.
that done. Yeah.
What's happened in the prototypes, by the way? Oh, it's very close.
Ran up into traffic, and Ulmer is there, and now Ulmer is looking to get it done into 12. Let's see if he forces the issue. He'll have the inside, and he does. New leader in the prototypes. It is the big cheese, John Ulmer.
Last time, it was the fuel that cost him the win. In fact, even cost him a top 5. This time, we don't believe he'll have that worry. More traffic up ahead of him. Andra had to go off track, so notch another one onto his incident points. Something, again, we need to remind our viewers, incidents could become a problem late in the race.
They go around Reese and Gracia there in the GTD, guys. Now, this has also brought in Mike Young. He's back there, too.
Oh.
Look at Ulmer working. That's the car he just got around. That was Sherburne, Christopher Sherburne. Now he's on the inside of Matt Owens.
Well, Bob the Blade is not here, but it looks like the big cheese is getting himself a slice as he sighs through these lapped GTD cars. Thankfully for Cy Andra, he was able to go through it at the same time and did not lose touch.
Not the case for Matt Owens. You can see him at the back of your screen there. He was right behind him when they got into the traffic. Owens now lets Mike Young around, but Young has fallen well back of Cy Andra, almost a second and a half.
This is pretty typical of what we've seen in the Autobahn series, though, Bill. Newcomers come in, and they're a little swamped, even if they've got speed.
Yeah, well, I don't think this track really, it makes lap traffic really, really interesting, because there's a lot of left, right, left, where guys are capped to come across the track. It reminds me a little bit of Interlagos, how technical it is. Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
Will be interesting to see what kind of a role lap traffic plays. This is quite a big track, and we don't expect to, I mean, obviously we're 7 laps into this race before lap traffic has really become an issue. The problem is it's going to be an issue for the rest of the race. Even if the GT cars don't go multiple laps down, they're still gonna be there. And if you catch them in the wrong spot, in the first or the last sector, it can definitely be tricky to get by. And now, the problem John Ulmer's about to run into is he's about to catch those 2 GTD trains that we've been watching. The next cars in front of him are Ross Booth, Sheldon Rosenbaum, and Dino Topic, and Sheldon's going for it. And Dino Topic using all of the runoff area in the penultimate turn to hold on ahead. He better not do that 24 times, though.
And Sam, just to follow up on your point, that's one of the beauties of the Autobahn series. Big fields, 14 prototypes, 14 in the GTLM guys, and you had about 20. So, yeah, you know, when we do class racing, it's not a lot of fun when we have classes of 6 or 7, but welcome to the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge.
As we ride on board Ross Booth, looking back at the quickly approaching leader of the prototypes, John Ulmer. He might get lucky. No, he's not. He's going to catch them right here in the S's at the absolute worst time. He has a big mistake. That gives Cy Andra the chance to close on him. They go around the outside of Booth, side-by-side action ahead of them. Another attempt from Rosenbaum. Oh, he makes contact with Dino Topic.
That's going to cost Rosenbaum. He could lose 7th in class to Ross Booth.
Booth's looking at it. Behind them, they've got Mike Young. Oh, who gets held up big time. Sneaks inside. Rosenbaum defends the inside. Hard to see the apex sometimes if you got a single screen, and maybe it was a little slight contact between Booth and Rosenbaum there.
Mike Young's got to be shaking his head. He cannot get a break in traffic.
Yeah, already 2.5 seconds back from Andra, despite those two having to weave their way through the S's. Oh, it almost makes contact with Dino Topic yet again. Dino cannot catch a break, and Mike Young once again almost off onto the AstroTurf to try to keep from running into him. Topic moves way off the racing line, then lets him through now. Mike Young making friends quickly here in Autobahn. So that order up at the top, even though they went through all kinds of traffic, remains as Ulmer, Andra, Young for your podium.
They're going to be coming up on a pretty good battle in Sam's class. 32nd overall between Brian Bennett and Scott McGarvey. These guys have been going at it, and I'm not sure if they're going to let the prototypes get by easily.
Well, the thing is, they're being held up in that Kevin Santana train for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Santana doing a good job at holding them off for now, but Burnett and McGarvey really haven't made any pass attempts. I wonder if they're both trying to save fuel and attempt to pass when the pit stop comes up.
Well, we're riding on board Andra, 2nd place, and they're catching them just how we saw last lap down into the exit of the S's. Climbing up the hill, causing a little bit of a headache for these drivers, and look at the opportunity that this might offer Scott McGarvey. They slowed up Brian Bennett significantly, and as they hit turn 11, I think he's too far back. He's going to take a look anyways.
And Kevin Santana will get away here because he just gets to let them by on the front straight. That's how it plays on the back straight. That's how it plays out sometimes.
Once again, Andra finds himself not close enough to Ulmer to make an attack down into 12. All of them braking heavily into this hairpin.
More bad news for Mike Young in 3rd, who's still stuck behind Burnett and McGarvey as they go through the 3rd sector.
Andra may be a newcomer to this series, but he has added quite a bit of spice up at the top of the prototypes.
You know what this series needs to do for the mental health of all the drivers? They need to, like during the off-season, have role reversals where they put the faster drivers in the slower cars so they get an idea of what it's like to try to get out of the way.
You know, the way some of these drivers have switched around classes, I feel like they've already done that, though. Andra's getting awful close. Go ahead.
Dale Green into the pits. He's been running at the tail end of a GTLM field, but I wonder if this is our first scheduled stop of a race.
It's a little bit early, but I think it is within the window. Oh, he's taken a fast repair and gotten out of the car. That's not a good sign for that Ferrari.
Sure was pretty, though.
Bradley
we need
Haley,
to go to our leaders.
GTD leader. Yep, you called it there, Joe. Bradley Haley, GTD leader, was kind of bulking John Ulmer. Nothing he could do, of course. Ulmer just caught him at a bad place, and that really allowed Andre to close in. But then, of course, the thing about these, as we get a replay of it, the thing about these high downforce cars in the twisty section of the circuit is once they were set free again, Andre had no air going onto the front of his car in the twisty part of the circuit. Lost a bit of time to Ulmer, but they're going down the back straight right now as we come back to live action. Ulmer was weaving, trying to break that draft from Andre behind him, and I guess it worked, because right now Ulmer enters turn 12 with the lead.
Moving more like a Texas rattlesnake back and forth down the straightaway. Ulmer feels under threat, and Cy Andre, he might smell blood in the water here. The way he's been going on the attack, just needs one opportunity as once again Ulmer goes wide coming out of the stadium section. A lot of mistakes that we're seeing from the Texas driver. Sounds like we've got a battle between Fleming and Darling happening in the GTLMs. Oh, but we might not want to go away because a good opportunity here for Cy Andre. Down into the final corner. He sticks his nose in. He gets the apex. Ulmer gets the run off the corner, though. The slipstream is given to Cy one more time. Down to the inside goes John Ulmer. They're going to climb up the hill, up into turn 1. How tightly is he going to hold? Way farther to the outside, using that rubber on the line goes Cy Andre. They come together. They bang doors. He has to go off track, and it stays in favor of John Ulmer, keeping the lead. Wow.
Give Andre a nice try to do that on the outside. I'm not sure John gave him all the room. It looked like Andre was pretty far wide, but hopefully Andre's car isn't damaged.
Boy, the gloves are off, Bill.
Yeah.
This is a good old Texas gunfight.
Oh boy, and talking about gunfight, we're almost seeing one in the battle for fourth between Scott McGarvey and Brian Burnett. Last time we checked in on it, Burnett was ahead. McGarvey just got it back, and they were going side by side through those S's at the start of lap there. And somehow they didn't come together, because that's very difficult to do indeed, and McGarvey comes out in front.
So as we watch Bennett, at least for now, able to breathe a sigh of relief I hate to take it away and hog it, but boy, the prototypes are still within half a second. Andra's still within a car length down into the braking zones. And now he's starting to break away a little bit, Ulmer, as he misses a few more apexes. Ooh, it's just hard to peel ourselves away from this battle for the lead. I know you spotted something else as well, Bill.
Well, we'll go here real quickly. Just want to give Leif Peterson some credit. He got around Dave Hill. Dave Hill not giving up that spot as they continue to battle. But I just want to point out, in my class, Ford, Ferrari, Ford, Ferrari, Ford, Ferrari, Ferrari, Ford, Ford. Nice mixture.
Seem to be very balanced at this track. Oh, we're going to have another attempt, I believe, from Cy Andra, because once again, he is right with him. However, they're going by the lapped car. I think that is Haley. No, that's Pfeiffer. Oh, down to the inside. Here goes Andra. I think this is going to be an over-under here from Ulmer. He tries it, gets at least a decent run off the corner, but it is not enough. Give P1 to Cy Andra. He is right on top of him. Is he going to stick his nose into the S's? They go too wide in there, but it's not enough as Ulmer has to back out.
Boy, this is some great racing. Both drivers racing hard, but giving each other room. I was really worried that Andra and Ulmer were going to get together, but they didn't. Now they in a few seconds they're going to be coming up on the back of Corey Rum.
And Andra's starting to check out quickly. I think Cy was being held up.
Again, those cars made contact too. You know, I talked about maybe Andra. I think he was getting the worst of it. Maybe Ulmer got some damage as well.
You never know. I see Dino Topic is in the pit. Is this scheduled? We're 36 minutes in.
I think it could definitely be within the window. Yeah. Of course, I think the significant thing about this here is that it opens the door for Sheldon Rosenbaum and Ross Booth, who were getting held up behind him in the twisty parts of the track. And let's see if they can use these laps to turn some hot times and maybe finish the pit cycle ahead of Dino Topic.
A good old leapfrog as we watch Sheldon Rosenbaum in a nice little battle here. Trying to fend off the car of Ross Booth. Those two have been left to their own devices now that Dino has pitted in. They come onto the backstretch yet again, but Ross Booth with a horrible exit. Oh, and it looks like we had missed a pass over in the GTLMs as well.
Not a lot going on in the GTLM, so when they do one, let's talk about it. Paul Darling able to get around Patrick Fleming. Now Darling up for fourth. I think he's faster than Fleming, and we always expect Darling to be faster as the race progresses.
You'll have to go to it, but Ulmer is already dropped off to 1.5 seconds off of Andra. So even though it seemed like he may have had pace early in the race, it has dropped off significantly.
2.5 back to Mike Young. Remember, Mike Young was right behind them for a time.
Have a bit of a pass in the back of the GTDs. Matt Owens gets overtaken by Sheldon Woloshin. That's important because Woloshin is second in the AMP Championship, and he's only 6 points behind McLeish. And I believe last round he had a very good result helping to close him in, so he's going to want to keep that momentum. In fact, I don't believe McLeish is here today, I don't think. I do not see him out on track. Meanwhile, side-by-side action between Fleming and Darling to the inside of this corner. Darling gets it back because Fleming thought he had it done through 12. Not so, as it switches back into the stadium section. Great defense from Paul.
Paul in the Ferrari, Fleming in the Ford. Remember, Darling had just made that pass the last lap. Fleming doing a great job of sticking with him.
And this is for the podium. Gerard may lead. Ooms is in second. Or, excuse me, this is for fourth, rather. Yeah. Yes, sorry about that.
And I know we haven't given much love to Gerard, Ooms, and McGarvey, but they are separated by about 6 seconds each. There's not a lot going on up there. This is the best battle in this class. Fourth in class.
And Gerard, I believe, has had a bit of an up and down season. I'm checking his stats right now. So we ride on board with Fleming watching this battle continue.
Because as we look at there, Fleming had a good job. He qualified in 19th overall ahead of Darling, or one spot ahead of Darling.
Actually, I'm not finding Gerard on our scoring for the GTLMs. This is his first round this season?
Yeah, he was. He's up to. He was GTD, I think, all season long. So he's come up here. This is where we know him from anyway, or at least where I got familiar with him.
So
then,
Gerard,
of course, he was doing prototypes as well, right?
Yeah, actually, I believe he only did prototype from what we had seen so far.
Yeah, I got him confused with Binkley. I apologize for that. There's a name from the past.
Well, that does mean that Gerard's now done each of the 3 classes. So there's your perspective you were talking about. Ooh, Darling almost got into the back of our leader, and that's going to give an opportunity to Fleming trying to come around the outside. This is once again into that stadium section. Oh, bit of a missed opportunity for Patrick.
These guys, it won't be long because here comes Mike Young.
Really causing all kinds of issues for these GTLMs. Peterson and Hill behind them had to get split by Young. That prototype now approaching Fleming. Go ahead.
The battle for third has finally resolved in GTD. Scott McGarvey and Brian Burnett have been riding behind Kevin Santana all race long. Well, McGarvey got a nice run going down into turn 11, but I think Santana might think about coming back here. Yeah, sure enough. Santana, I think, has less of a rear wind than McGarvey, and that helps him down the back straight. He tries to think about making a pass, but here's where McGarvey's got to capitalise. If he does have more downforce on this car, there's a lot of turns about to come up in front of him. He's got to try and pull away from Santana here.
Santana was trying so hard to get down to that apex before McGarvey did, but McGarvey pinched him in, denied him the opportunity. And he's going to stay ahead in that 3rd position behind them. Brian Bennett closing in the popcorn position. Sizing these 2 up, seeing if maybe an opportunity could arise. So halfway through the race now, we should be seeing some more pit stops start to take effect. In the top 2 classes, we expect the GTDs to be the last of them, as they tend to like to run long. Although Topic is going to take the reverse of that this round to see if he can gain an advantage that way. Here we see our leader in the GTDs, Bradley Haley.
Yeah,
relatively calm race for him. Go ahead.
Yeah, top 2 in GTD has been the same all race long, and then 3rd place have been the same all race long as well, until it wasn't, as we just saw on screen. I've got to wonder, though, with Scott McGarvey pulling away from Kevin Santana, is that going to tell Brian Burnett, hey, I've got to hurry up and make that pass for 4th? Go ahead.
Can we get a replay on Cy Andra of just when I gave up that, scared the heck out of me if we can. He squeezed in between McGarvey and almost ran up on the back of Jeff Hooper. Watch this. This took my breath away. I didn't know where he was going. Watch as he makes this move here. Inside.
Thread the needle. And it looks like Ulmer has come into the pits. So we said that we were going to see some of the faster classes start to take their strategy calls. Ulmer's the first to blink up at the top of the prototypes. Behind him, you might see Alex Ellis stream through. He made progress up to 7th now, past Armando Edwards this lap, and now he's going to get John Ulmer, but that's going to switch back because Ellis needs one more stop.
Unlike when we saw Road America, where the prototypes were coming in with 31 minutes left of racing, now they come in well on the other side of the halfway mark.
Going to be a lot easier for them to make it to the end on a single stop. So what does Cy Andra do? Is he aware of what his rival has done? Does he respond?
Kevin Santana, we've been keeping an eye on him in GTD. He is in for his scheduled stop.
There we see Santana in. Santana used to race in the prototypes quite a bit, was never really much of a threat in there, and as soon as he moved over to the GTD class, Boy, he found his speed. This definitely suited him much, much better. All right, we're watching our overall leader, Cy Andre, as he comes around through the penultimate corner, over that crest. Took a lot of curb on the inside. He stays out, though.
Now, it could just be an error in my internet connection, but when Ulmer came in, his car blinked away for about a second. I almost think maybe he took that fast repair.
Could be. That could be what was costing him pace,
right,
and dropping off. Mike Young also continues on. Not seeing many of our prototypes take the bait quite yet.
Yeah, but pit entry is getting busy. About 4 cars just came down nose to tail, being led by Paul Darling.
I wonder if we could get an onboard of Sheldon Rosenbaum about 20 seconds ago. He did his pit stop. Remember, Topic was trying to jump him. Well, he came out very close, but that was complicated by a prototype in the form of Mark Katrowski and nearly made contact. Watch this. Out of pit lane he goes to the apex. Not much room at the end.
Now, one car I'm surprised doesn't come in for an early stop to get fast repairs. A Mercedes of Sean Rees. He's got a nice dent in the front of his car. I'm sure that's got to be affecting his handling a bit.
Certainly not helping his top end, although that Mercedes really has a blunt front in the first place. Certainly isn't hurting its speed compared to the other 2 makes in that GTD class.
In one of the only battles we were watching, Darling and Fleming, they both came in for their pit stops at the same time. Darling has crushed him, though, as he's left him behind.
But in fact, Darling's looking ahead to John King now. Now, I believe King has not pitted yet. Okay, so this is going to switch around. In fact, as they come to turn 11, looks like they're letting Kundinger through. And there goes Darling past his rival who has yet to pit.
Andrew into the pits.
Now he finally responds. Ulmer's back in 5th.
As to the rest of the prototype leaders.
Young in, Ralty in. Ellis will be able to continue on, but not much longer, as his pit stop was very early to deal with that damage.
Ulmer is just through 19, heading to the final corner, going to put the throttle down the main straight.
He's dealing with a lot of traffic right now. Andra starts moving now. This is going to be incredibly close. Here comes Ulmer up the front stretch. Andra now reaches the first corner, and I think he's got him.
With a nice cushion of a few cars between them.
Ellis is there. Sklenka, who pulls over, lets them through. Yeah, it's a gap of about 2.5 seconds.
Oh, spin the by Robert Sklenka.
That's Joe's fault.
That's advantage of the runoff area.
Let's watch the replay of Sklenka.
Poor Sklenka. He's been on camera for 5 seconds and we catch him doing that. Honestly.
I know a regular runner of this series, Brett Trocine, has complained to me personally that we always seem to get him when he has an accident or something goes wrong in his race. So, such is the curse sometimes of running in the midfield on broadcast. Sounds like Svredic is in.
Yeah, he's done a good job all race long of keeping in touch of Haley, but he's always been a second or 2 back. He hasn't really closed into within a second. And what is Jeff Hooper doing at the end of pit road? That's not a pit stall.
Maybe missed his pit stall on the way through. Now, one thing we should clarify, and he exits out. I think he missed his pit stall. For viewers who have not played iRacing, they base your pit stall on where you qualified. So sometimes you get to the pits and you actually don't know where your pit stall is.
You haven't been there all race, yeah.
Ooms is
the nice thing about COTA, they have 60 pit stalls and no one's had to double up. We've seen that raise complications at tracks like Canadian Tire Motorsports Park before.
That allows Gerard to continue on with the lead, but he's going to have to come in eventually. He's holding a steady pace. And let's see, has Gerard won in the GTDs this season, actually? Curious, if he wins this, that means he'll have won in all of the classes, and I'm not sure we've had someone do that before.
Hidden for the cycle.
Oh, John King overshot pit entry. He's able to still make it, but it cost him a bit of time.
Yeah, King was in a nice battle with Carlos Villa, but King comes in. This is not so bad, though. If we go back one spot to 22nd overall, this is Ryan Huff in a battle with Patrick Fleming. Now, are they in the same class? I believe they are. This is a battle. Yeah, it's a battle for position. Remember, Fleming was up in that battle with Darling, but Darling's long gone. Look, Fleming has really got its work cut out for him now.
Haley's in the pits.
Yeah, and I'm very curious about this, Joe, because he was being held up by a GTLM on pit entry. He actually ended up passing him on the way into pit entry because he was getting held up so much. As we see more drama on track here, but I wonder if Haley or Savatek is going to be leading this GTD race when it all cycles through.
I think it's going to be Haley. Savretic comes out just behind him, and Haley's got it as they come through turn 1.
I believe that was Fleming and Huff that we had on screen there that we caught real quick. That was that battle. Fleming going to get the best of it.
And Fleming sounds like he's offering an apology over the radio there. Now, I did a little bit of research, and it sounds like some unfinished business for Gerard. His highest finish in the GTDs is a 2nd. There he comes on out. So that is his pit stop done, and he is going to be well clear of Peterson, Hill, and Ooms. And actually, Peterson and Hill are in the pits. Ooms comes around to re-inherit his 2nd place.
Yeah, I went back and caught what was going on with Bradley Haley there on pit entry. It was Robert Sklenka who we caught there, and like I say, Haley passed him on pit entry. I'm not sure what the league admins are going to say about that, but had he stayed behind Sklenka, I have a feeling Savratek would have beat him.
Sounds like we got a bit of a fight down in 8th for the prototypes. That's Armando Edwards trying to fend off Mark Wilson, and in fact, they've got Duprat in there as well.
Yeah, they just worked their way around the lap car there of Sheldon Reloshin. This is a nice 3-car battle. Not anywhere high up in the points, but nevertheless putting on a good show. Wilson in the middle. Lionel Duprat in the purple and black attack there of Mama Jean Racing. And Armando Edwards out in front.
Duprat is going to want both of these spots, because even though right now he is ahead of Scott Corbin, he's behind him in the points chase for the AM Championship and the prototypes, and that's a 7-point gap. So if he can get those two, that could net Duprat the AM Championship lead. They're right on board the Mama Jean HPD. They work their way through traffic. Oh, look at the move there to the inside for Armando Edwards. It's going to be a drag race down into 12. And actually, it was a move to the inside by Wilson, who just overshot it as they come down to the braking for the hairpin. Edwards ahead yet again, and another move for Wilson. He tried it once. He's going to try it again. Is it going to be unsuccessful because it's going to switch back and just cannot seem to find a way around the HPD of Edwards?
Wow, this is some good stuff.
Things keep switching back and forth, and once again, it seems like Wilson just cannot find the inside, but he finds the grip around the outside. He's threatening around the triple apexer. He's going to have the inside of the penultimate quarter. They come together. Wilson gets tipped around and just catches the barriers, but this hands it over to Duprat. Let's watch the replay of that one, Bill. It was a valiant effort.
Yeah, they paid me to make a call, so I'm going to say he got his nose chopped off there. I thought he had pretty good presentation on that one. But when you're racing that close, you can only dance in the China shop so long before you break some porcelain.
Well, and unfortunately, Wilson has to pay for a position as Duprat now already on top of Edwards. DePratt certainly seems to have some pace here today. Where did he actually start this race? He started in 11th. He's into 9th. He's looking at 8th. It's been a nice little climb.
Our director just caught a shark, a great white shark coming up with some Jaws music playing in the background. And I think that shark's name is John Ulmer, who took half a second out of Andre last lap. Of course, with Alex Ellis pitting, this has meant that Andre is now within sighting and striking range of Ulmer, who was able to use lap traffic, I think, to close down a bit. Andre pulls out a little bit there, though, but I definitely don't think we've seen the last of this battle today.
Well, the Big Cheese has taken a Texas-sized bite out of that lead. They get a little bit held up by the car of Scott McGarvey, who pulls away and lets him through. Didn't affect him too badly. What was 1.1 is now 0.8 between Ulmer and Andra.
Do they have sharks in the Gulf of Mexico near Texas?
I'm pretty certain they do.
Yeah, they get caught up in tornadoes. They come down, they land on you and eat you.
Well, remind me never to take science advice from Bill in the future.
I saw it in a movie. It's got to be true.
Ooh, Ulmer has a bad exit out of the S's, and those 3/10 that he gained earlier has been given right back. Ooh, Ulmer's pushing hard as he has a big slide coming out of 11, and he loses yet more time. In all of this, we should mention, remember, Mike Young was on the podium. He is still on the podium, but he's a whole 12, almost 13 seconds back from this battle for the lead. He is not a threat at the moment. With that, pit stops seem to be effectively done. Let's run down your top 5 in each of the classes to get you up to speed on where things stand. Cy Andra leads the race, but it's yo-yoing back and forth on the gap between himself and second place, John Ulmer. After pit stops, we believe John may have taken his free car to get that thing fresh and get some pace back. Mike Young, I mentioned, he's holding down the podium. A good first effort for his first race. He's shown some speed, but not enough to challenge for a win today. Alex Simonik, he's got himself into 4th. He started this race in 5th. Remember, he overtook Alex Ellis and has since stayed ahead of him since he got some damage when he was ran into. Daniel Gralty, however, holds the top 5 today. If things stay as they are, he will finish behind Simonik. Those two have been fighting quite a bit this season. Let's go to the GTLMs.
This class has a reputation of putting on a great show every race. Not really the case this time. Jason Girard out in front by almost 9 seconds over Jeffrey Ooms. Ooms lost that second spot to Billy Smith, but got it back and now races in second. Steve McGarvey has made his way up to 3rd, but he's 4 seconds behind Ooms and has 12 seconds back to Paul Oh My Darling, who's racing in 4th. And finally, about 1.5 seconds back, trying to get up there, is Billy Smith. He's got some work to do as he's being overtaken right now by the prototype of Armando Edwards. Sam?
Well, Haley continues to lead in GTD, and Dennis Savatek continues to ride about 1 to 2 seconds behind him. Then they have a bit of a gap to Scott McGarvey, as they have had all race long. I'm trying to work out what happened to Brian Burnett. He's in 4th in class, which sounds normal, but I think he had a really slow lap a couple laps ago. I think he was actually had a quick stop and was quite close to Savatek, but since then he's dropped back to 4th place behind Scott McGarvey. And then in 5th position in class now is Kevin Santana. Let's recall Kevin Santana been the running in 3rd up early on, been holding up a bit of a train behind him, and then he dropped back to 5th, and now he continues to run 5th in the GTD class.
Oh, and we had our first victim of the incident limit, and it was none other than Patrick Fleming. Who would have expected? Fleming usually not a terribly sloppy driver, but this is a tough track to stay away from off tracks. Oh, and it looks like we're not going to be able to get it on replay.
Well, remember, Fleming made that contact earlier that we caught on screen. Who was it with? Huff, I believe? And that was 4 points right there.
Yeah, those can rack up very quickly. As right now we check on the battle between Peterson and Hill. This is for 6th position. And the GTLM's Hill on the brakes, locks him up into 12 and narrowly avoids disaster. I don't know if Peterson was looking in his rearview mirrors. If he was, though, that was a clincher.
Yeah, he certainly didn't hear much because I don't think Hill was on the brakes till he was almost in the tail.
Well, that breaks up the battle that I had been watching while we were giving our rundown. Was hoping we could go to. So, with those two having spread apart, let's find ourselves another close one in one of the other classes that needs some love here. Fortunately, with 12 minutes to go, this one's gone by quick. Everybody's getting themselves their own little piece of track.
And really clean. We've only lost 2 cars.
A little bit of an update. Well, you say clean. Let me give it an update on all of our DNFs, though. Marty Jeffries, Joseph Crawford, David Tejada, Dale Green, Corey Roon, Matt Owens, Jeff Hooper, Mark Kudrowski, Carlos Villa, and Carter Kundinger are no longer on the track.
You are right. I had to go up a little bit, scroll up a little bit to see all those cars. What are we looking at here, Director?
This looks like the lead to me.
Well, you want to find a battle? Let's go to P1 overall.
The most important fight on the track for the prototypes. That is going to be P1. Ulmer has closed it down in. Look at Andra going defensive. I think more looking to break the draft than anything. Ulmer tries to come from a long ways back, but that was never going to work. You know, without... go ahead.
I think the new car, I think the clean car has changed this up a bit. Remember, he was back about almost 2 seconds. He's really ran him down.
Speaking of changing it up a bit, with Tinsey not here today, I kind of wondered if we get a new fight, some new names up at the top. We didn't really, but this is a new rivalry for sure, because remember, Andra and Ulmer were fighting it out for the win at Road America as well.
Yeah, Andra, he missed the first race. He's got better and better and better as goes along, picking up his win last time.
Ulmer seems to be struggling in the acceleration zones, coming off of turn 11. Car sliding in what was half a second is now 1.4 for Ulmer.
This all going on ahead of Mike Young. Remember, Mike Young was close. He's now fallen back 14 seconds back. Looks like he has third place pretty well secure, though. A nice debut to the series.
You can see only 10 minutes left to go as we watch Young work his way around the circuit. The one thing that could throw a wrench in it for our 2 leaders is traffic. Right now, they've actually got Will Lotion, and he is slowing up Andra just a bit coming out of the triple apexer. Will Ulmer be able to capitalize a little bit easier? Yes, he is. He's going to be a little offline down into the final corner, but what was 1.4 again comes right on down to 0.7.
Traffic could play a role, incident points could play a role, Joe. I'm seeing a lot less names appear on my screen on the iRacing can tell us which drivers are putting wheels off course. There's a lot less of it going on now, and I don't know if that's because the tyres are warm, or I don't know if it's because a lot of drivers are sitting at 23 incident points and they're like, uh-oh, I better stop doing that.
I think it's the latter, to tell you the truth. As they climb up the hill out of the S's, Andra, strong through the twisty bits, gets it back up to a second. This is the least consistent gap I think I've ever seen between 2 leaders racing hard. Next up for them is going to be Ryan Huff. They won't catch him, I think, until the stadium section at least.
Looking well down the track. Not a real cluster of cars for those guys. I think they're getting them one at a time.
And of course, as always, the aspect of fuel that could throw a wrench into these things, or even Windows updates, installing NVIDIA drivers in the middle of a race, as is what happened to Jeff Hooper. That would explain why he missed his pit stop.
Oh, certainly not convenient. One of the quirks of sim racing that you don't really have problems with typically in real-world racing. We're watching Scott McGarvey in the GTDs. He's trying to follow the footsteps of his brother. He keeps getting better and better results. here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge? Could we see a pair of brothers as champions potentially?
Right now, the McGarvey Bros both won in third position in their respective classes.
Yeah, Scott McGarvey second in the points over there in GTD. And podium finish today, or lose some points to Bradley Haley, but not a whole lot.
As we've seen, consistency is key in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge.
Let's take a peek in here. This is Paul Darling. Little by little, Billy Smith has been running him down. He just lost some time as Smith got pinned behind the slower car of Dino Topic. And now he's going to lose a ton of time as he had no corner exit out of that corner, out of 11. Boy, you have a bad corner, you have a bad exit out of 11. You pay for it for a long time.
Might have been a little bit of a disappointing race for Smith as well, as he was so high up early on and was not able to keep cars behind him as things progressed. Right now, still trying to chase down Darling, just in hopes of getting himself a fourth, if anything.
I think Smith's going to need a little help from traffic to get him.
Bit of a battle for eighth going on in prototype between Armando Edwards and Lionel Duprat. It really heated up coming out of a penultimate corner when they came up to Jeffrey Ooms, and now Duprat went off course. He's got back on, he's got the inside line. Armando Edwards, though, trying to make a power move on the outside, but once again, they're going to catch Ooms in the GTLM car here.
And don't look now, behind them is David Sockrider, and it's a three-car fight for eighth now.
And that's Kevin Santana up in front of Ooms. This is going to get ugly.
All three classes together as... Oh, when he looks to the inside, a little bit of contact. They both get away with it. Behind them, Duprat loses the position out to David Sockrider, who sneaks through.
And Armando Edwards, a big winner in this, because right now these two prototypes are still stuck by Santana and Ooms. They'll be able to get by here, but I think the damage has already been done.
Might as well ask these drivers who's on first. It is just a mess out there. And somehow they all get through with nobody getting turned around. And hopefully minimal damage between the cars. Sockrider with a nice advantageous pass to get himself into 9th after he started in 13th.
Poor Jeffrey Ooms. He had a nice quiet run in second. He's not going to catch the leader, just trying to put in those final laps. Then all of a sudden chaos breaks out all around him.
Every race, it is reinforced that it is not over until it is over when it comes to the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Such is the case with our leaders as they come onto the backstretch one more time, and yet again under a second between them.
Yeah, it was a second at the line. It's now only 6 tenths. I think a reason why is Brandon Gracia, one of our newer GTD drivers, who hasn't had a fantastic race today. He's been running in 8th. He's had a solid race, but I think we have seen stronger performances out of him during the season. Fortunately, a lot of races left to go. We'll see what he can do in the future. But as we mentioned, this has closed that gap for the prototype lead. And if Ulmer's going to do something, Joe, he's running out of time to do it.
Yeah, I think they've only got, what, about 3 laps to go here. Once again, a little bit of traffic in front of them.
This is Rosenbaum, and then they have the prototype ahead of him of Scott Corbin, who's actually going to be lapped.
Not the only battle in the top 5 in prototype, by the way. Alex Simonik only just holding on to 4th ahead of Daniel Grolty.
Gralty certainly wants to get another one over on Simonik. Those two have been incredibly close on pace all season long. He's stalking him now as they come through that penultimate corner. Here we ride on board with Simonik looking back.
Yeah, Simonik is definitely slower. Gralty has been running him down. He was well back. Don't know if he has enough time with 3 minutes and a half to go.
Meanwhile, the GTD lead remains about a second or 2 between them, but I wonder if that'll stay that way, because Christopher Sherburn and Sean Rees, who have both had less than stellar races over in GTD,
let's go to the prototypes.
Track and holding
Here
up
comes
Haley
Ulmer.
a bit.
They were held up by the car of Paul Lindsay. Ulmer doesn't attack, though. I think he knows his best opportunity is a launch off of the hairpin 11. Here he goes. He's going to steal a slipstream from the car of Dino Topic. usually cuts a bigger hole in the air than the prototypes do, and it helps him. He is much, much closer. They're coming down to turn 12. Andra knows it. He looks to the inside, tries to go defensive. They're going to have Dave Hill. Is it going to be 3 wide down into the hairpin? An over-under attempt from John Ulmer. Gets balked at the apex. Can't carry his speed. Hill's still there. Can't get out of the way, but Ulmer doesn't care. He's still trying to go around the outside of Cy Andra. He's right on top of him. Can he sneak one into the hairpin of the stadium section? Not quite. Stays within less than a car length, but can't grip off the corner. And once again, John Ulmer finds himself struggling with wheel spin.
And what's about to be very interesting here is the time left on the clock when Andre crosses the start-finish line as he comes out of the final turn. And we're watching this battle for fourth between Alex Simonik and Daniel Grotti too. There's a little more than a minute 50 left. There's 2 laps left in this race, guys. Do they have enough fuel for it?
We didn't think that it would be an issue. No drivers were talking about fuel issues on the lead-up, but then we didn't hear anybody really discussing much before Road America either. So who knows? That fight that we watched between Simonik and Grotti, Simonik did come out ahead, but they are oh so close still, but not as close as this is. 2 tenths between our leaders as they deal with yet more traffic, weaving their way through. Oh, a slide from Ulmer! And the cheese is off the pizza in Texas, as he's got to recover the car, and it's already up to 6 seconds between them.
He had a big cushion to Mike Young, so really nothing ventured, nothing lost there.
But Alex Ellis, one of the prototype drivers running in top 5, did have to come in, and I guess that was for fuel.
His 3rd stop, though, too. Interesting. Not expected for Ellis. And Ulmer did get on the radio and explain that it was the inside curve that he caught and just knocked the car out. Said he was struggling with those pyramid curves all race long. Sounds like we got a battle for Topic down in the GTDs, though. Paul Lindsay in the Mercedes trying to take that 7th place away from Dino Topic. Oh, excuse me, he's in a Ferrari. Boy, that would be insult to injury after Topic switched away from the Ferrari because he thought it was slow to get beaten by one.
Andre, meanwhile, crossing the start-finish line. White flag is in the air, but like I say, with only 5 seconds left on the clock, I hope the drivers accounted for this extra lap when they win for their fuel.
I haven't seen any change in pace for Andra, but hopefully I didn't hurt Sam's ears too much when I called a Ferrari or Mercedes.
Let's drop down to 16th overall, 4th in class. This is Paul Darling. Billy Smith, try as he might, just can't get there. Sometimes traffic brings Darling back to him, but he just can't seem to get around Darling in 4th.
Certainly not the race that he wanted, but at least it'll be more consistent results for the GTLM.
Let's go to Armando Edwards real quick. He was making a run. He just spun it around. He was making a run on David Sockrider. That's a battle we've been watching. The car got away from him. That was going to end up as well.
Well, he didn't lose any positions through that, right? And now he's actually trying to hold on to that position from Lionel Duprat.
Right.
And he's able to do that, but he might lose it by the end. Alex Ellis back in the pits again. Something's not right there.
Certainly
and now Duprat made a mistake. Edwards was able to escape there.
Oh, disappointment for Duprat. He's only going to be 2 positions ahead of Corbin, but he will still make inroads on that AM Championship points lead. Another driver that's going to make inroads on a championship lead is Cy Andra. His 4th race, his 2nd win. He's going to have a 50% strike rate. That is impressive for a rookie. A little bit of a slide coming through the triple apexer, but no problem as he's got 7.5 seconds over Ulmer at this point. The number 24 hits the final corner, and after 60 minutes of racing, Cy Andra is going to take the win here in the prototypes at Autobahn in the Circuit of the Americas.
Drop back just a few cars. Here comes Darling and Billy Smith to the line. It looks like Darling's going to get him. That's about 5th in class, 4th and 5th.
And before we get our GTLM and GTD winners, this battle for 4th in prototypes still needs to be resolved. They were side by side a couple of turns ago, but it looks like Simonic will hold on the finish ahead of Daniel Groldy.
Nicely done by Simonic. Net him some nice points. But next up, it looks like, I believe, is Bradley Haley. Someone correct me if I've got that wrong. So our GTD leader, completely unfazed right now by Savretic, who's a whole 3 seconds back. Disaster could yet still strike in this final third of the lap, as they do have a fight, actually. Is that Duprat behind?
Yeah, Edwards and Duprat are battling for ninth right behind Bradley Haley, and they could very easily catch Haley in these last couple of turns here. But even if they do, Haley won't lose anything, I don't think, by just pulling over and letting them go by. So here comes Haley looking for the win as Duprat goes off in that prototype battle behind. I think that'll seal the deal for Edwards. Haley is going to let them by. He's got to be careful here because Savretic's not too far behind these guys, but he's being careful enough. Haley's still going to have a second and change as he comes across the line and wins here at Circuit of the Americas.
Right behind him is Jason Gerard, our leader for the GTLM. A solid win, and his first win in the GTLM class for Jason Gerard. With that, we are going to go to break here on the Autobahn, or on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, and between that, we'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC, so don't go away. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas, here where we just watched round 5 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. In the end, Cy Andra takes his second win of the season. He's only started 4 races, so he's won half of the races he's entered. This is only his rookie season, so he's got a great record so far here in AMGSC. Ulmer followed him home. It was going to be a hard fight all the way to the line, but a mistake from Ulmer on the penultimate lap meant that 7 seconds split them when the checkered flew. Mike Young, in his first race, takes a 3rd place. Nice job, but he was 17 seconds back from the leader, so he's going to have to pick up the pace. Alex Simonik just outside the podium in in 4th. Daniel Gralti finished in 5th, with Mark Schindel coming home in 6th. Alex Ellis, we found out that he was having problems with his Rift, his Oculus Rift. It was stuttering on him. That's why we kept seeing him have pits and also run into the back of Daniel Gralti. David Stockrider comes home in 8th, with Armando Edwards 9th. Lionel Duprat comes home in 10th. Mark Wilson in 11th, and Scott Corbin in 12th. If I could figure out my numbers today, Bill.
A rare case where the back part of this class probably got more screen time than the guys who finished on the podium. Jason Gerard, Jeffrey Ooms, and Stephen McGarvey go 1, 2, 3. We did watch the battle between Paul Darling and Billy Smith. Leif Peterson going to come home 6th in class. Dave Hill and Ryan Huff in a pair of Fords go 7th and 8th. Jimbo Pfeiffer and John King round out that class. Sam?
Much like Haley's Comet, you can always count on seeing Bradley Haley in victory lane every so often. He does it here today ahead of Dennis Savratic back there in 2nd place. Much like his brother did in GTLM, Scott McGarvey gets a 3rd step on the podium in GTD. And then we get to our first Audi there across the line. Brian Burnett 4th in class ahead of Kevin Santana, who started 3rd, dropped back to 5th by the end. Ross Booth didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but he finishes in 6th position ahead of Dino Topic, and then Paul Lindsay brings home the first Ferrari GT3 in 8th in class. Sheldon Rosenbaum and Brandon Gracia round out the top 10 in GTD, followed by Sheldon Woloshin, Christopher Sherburn, Sean Rees, and Robert Sklenka. Then we get to the cars that ran into trouble today. I've got to be honest, for these guys, this race was very, very clean, but that didn't mean we didn't have some drivers run into issues, and those would be Carter Cundiner, Carlos Villa, Patrick Fleming, Mark Kudrowski, Jeff Hooper, Matt Owens, Corey Roon, Dale Green, and David Tejeda, Marty Jeffries, and Joseph Crawford. Those last 2 there did not make the start.
And with that, we've got our overall winner waiting in the wings to talk to us. That is Cy Andra. On his 2nd win of the season, is going to be talking to Bill after he sprayed the champagne.
Cy, congratulations, 2 in a row. John got that lead early, but you were able to work him, and you finally got him about lap 13.
Man, I was really worried knowing how well John defends. I made a mistake. I let him through. But something was up with him, and he made more mistakes than he does usually, and eventually I managed to get back through there and managed to hold on to it from there on.
Made a little contact before the pits. I think he came and got a fast repair. What do you think about your setups? Do you think you guys were on the same setup?
No, from my discussion with him after the race, he was running medium downforce around here, but he was running as little downforce on medium downforce that he could, so our speeds were somewhat the same, but in the end I had more straight line speed than he did, so I think that became the deciding factor once I got back in front.
You started off slow, you started to have a couple 4th place finishes, now a couple wins. You're starting to get a feel for the series?
Oh, definitely, and I mean, I'm going to go for the hat trick at this rate.
You did a good job getting through traffic. It was fun to watch your race. Congratulations on 2 in a row. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you very much, man.
Cy Andra, your winner, the Floridian driver. Joe?
We have our winner in the GTLM, Jason Gerard, ready to talk to us as well as we pull him into the booth. And Jason, congratulations on the win in the GTLM class. But I have to ask, you only have a 2nd in GTE. Do you think you have unfinished business there that you want to go back and get the Triple Crown?
No, I'm just in this for the experience in GTE, if I'm honest with you. I thought I could manage 3 different cars in 3 different series, and I just couldn't manage it at all, just time away from the keyboard and whatnot. So I thought I needed a little bit more seat time in the 4GT to help my team out, SRN Motorsports, with the new Endurance Series and get a little bit more seat time. So I'm actually pretty surprised that I was able to just run away from the field that I've been seeing Jeffrey and I know Steve McGarvey, my teammates, equal to, if not in certain cases, faster than I was. I was actually surprised I was put that far ahead.
Yeah, you certainly put one over on both Ooms and McGarvey, and those two were who we expect to try and fight for the championship in the GTLMs. Do you think you're going to give them a hard time the rest of the season, or is this a one-off in terms of having a pace over them?
Well, I think it's going to depend on the tracks. I just like COTA. I know Suzuka and Motegi are coming up, and you and I both know that I excel at the Japanese track, so I'll do pretty well there. Outside that, who knows? I'm just going to take it one race at a time. One of the benefits of it is I don't got to worry about a championship. I just go in there, race as hard as I can, get seat time, get myself ready for when it really counts for series like Neo and whatnot.
That's always the best thing, to be able to just have fun. And speaking of the Japanese, is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Of course, I'd like to thank my Japanese people.
All right, that was Jason Gerard, our winner in the GTLMs. I do believe that Haley's Comet is waiting to talk to Sam.
Yeah, Bradley Haley, you pretty much had a flawless race out there today, but Dennis Safratek was keeping you honest all race long.
Yeah, he had I knew we were going to be pretty close in pace, so I just needed to get a gap in the beginning and hope traffic helped me.
Yeah, I'm checking the incident count here for drivers during the race. You only accumulated 8 during the event. With the cool temperatures here, did that help? Did that help you all keep to the track? Track limits was less of an issue for you.
Yeah.
Oh, rather short. Oh, go ahead.
Just so I knew exactly where all of the off tracks were at. So, yeah, you know, the cool track kept the car from sliding, but once you got in a rhythm, it was pretty easy to stay within the track limits.
You've had a bit of an up and a down start to the year, start to the season this year. Who do you think is your biggest challenger so far in the early stages of a season? And if it is yourself, you know, if you feel like you're making mistakes and you just need to stop them, where do you think is the biggest place you need to improve to wrap up this title at the end of the year?
Probably Dennis will be my biggest competition. Brian Bennett also can really be on pace. You know, in the Audi, he can really throw you a curveball and show up. Yeah, Road Atlanta, I was being patient, and then I tried to go and made a couple mistakes, and as I was braking, I mean, Dennis, it might have been netcode, but it was pretty close. And we got together, but yeah, there's been some lack of concentration at most sport that cost me a win. But you know, I learned from that, and that stuff's not going to happen again.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you and Dennis and Brian and other drivers out there, because there's definitely strong competition. Put on a great championship fight for us for the rest of the season. We look forward to seeing you back on track next week over at Road Atlanta.
All right, see you guys. Thanks.
That was our winner in the GTDs, Bradley Haley. He mentioned Brian Bennett. Well, Bennett's waiting to talk to us because he had a 4th place today, although he was the highest finishing Audi in the GTD class. And that makes me have to wonder, Brian, do you feel like the Mercedes had a big advantage over the other 2 cars today in the GTD class?
Well, I felt pretty competitive out there, honestly, but leading up to the event, let's say I was very surprised with that finish. I thought I'd be competing for top 5 and fighting to get 5th. So I was very stoked to stay competitive that long. We went too fast. I ended up running out of gas.
Oh, disappointment there. Now, this track seemed to be a bit of a headache at some points with traffic. A number of cars really got held up, even though we didn't see a whole lot of incidents of contact between classes. How do you feel it went between your class and the 2 faster ones?
Oh, honestly, the speed difference. GTE, I don't think they only caught it. I only got caught by Gerard, if I recall, and he had a substantial lead. I think he did pass me, but I thought he might just follow along and make it easy. HBDs, you know, and all in all, they were pretty compliant. I went off the track once the first time that Ulmer and Cy passed me. I was a bit concerned about that because, you know, I was on an incident budget out there. But, you know, we ended up finishing with only 12 or so, or 16. So I had some spares. I had some leftovers. I should have drove harder.
I'll have to remember that term. I like that, an incident budget. Now, we're going to a completely different track next round, a lot more punishing with closer walls at Road Atlanta. Do you think attrition could maybe play in your favor there?
Honestly, I thought it may here. I did a lot of practice. I did several hundred laps, which is pretty typical for me. Road Atlanta, you know, I feel pretty good with my curbs. I have to be able to hit the curbs at Road Atlanta. It's going to be another one where I'm going to be at a disadvantage chasing them Audis. The Mercedes. So, but I'm going to, you know, do I can. I think I've got pretty good speed. I've found a pretty good setup for top speed with ride heights and rakes and such. So I just got to make it work through those corners and stay connected to the earth. Survive turn 5. Let's go racing.
That's always the tough one. And, well, Bradley Haley says that you could be one of his greatest rivals this season. We'll keep an eye out for you. Thanks for talking to us.
Hey, thanks for being here, Joe. Me and Brad, we had a good time. He and I and Jimbo Pfeiffer and a buddy of mine, Jeff Odom, my best man at my wedding and a 30-some-odd-year best friend. We all went in a 3-hour go-kart race yesterday together here up in the Seattle area. So we all met. I've met Jimbo before. We've golfed together. But now I've met Brad, so he's a great guy, good family man.
Always great to get that FaceTime with everybody and get to drive real cars as well on top of it. That was Brian Bennett, our 4th place finisher in the GTDs. And that's going to wrap it up for us today. Of course, we want to thank the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. The Autobahn Motorcar Group specifically for being the sponsor of the Sportscar Challenge. They help bring this thing to air. And of course, thanks to John Ulmer for organizing the league with all of his helpers behind the scenes. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. I highly encourage you guys to go and check it out. They've provided great stuff for us all these years. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel. We're also on Facebook at just simply Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race, as we said, it's going to be at Road Atlanta. A lot shorter track than this one, but still very much just as challenging. That'll be Monday, December 4th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.